Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this work session of the City Utilities Committee to order. Today is Thursday, August 8th, 2024. I'm Councilmember Antonio Lewis, Chair of the City Utilities Committee. And on behalf of the City Utilities Committee, I extend a warm welcome to our committee, to our dedicated city staff and members of the viewing public who are joining us either in person or virtually. I am joined by my colleague, Councilmember Andrea Boone, to my left. Today, before we begin, the committee would like to thank all supporters and advocates of the Atlanta Public Access Television for their patience. We've had ongoing discussions for several months to get this work session scheduled, and I appreciate everyone's persistence and patience. Today's agenda is focused on the topic at hand. Deputy Chief of Staff Wagner will lead his team in providing us an update of the status of Atlanta Public Access Television. After the presentation, we will open the floor to discuss among council members and city staff. Our goal today is to engage in a dialogue to determine the most appropriate course of action for Atlanta Public Access Television. Following the discussion, we will have public comments. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the committee. Your insights are invaluable in helping shape our decisions. We greatly appreciate your participation. As we wrap up, we will outline the next steps, ensuring everyone has a clear understanding of the path forward for Atlanta Public Access Television. Thank you for your commitment for the well-being of our city, and we can proceed with our agenda.
Mr. Chairman, Councilmember Boone, nice to see you both. Austin Wagner, Deputy Chief of Staff for Mayor Andre Dickens. Joined today by our Chief Communications Officer, Allison Fouché, who's here, and then Dr. Jabari Samama, who we've brought on to assist us with moving this forward and helping to establish a committee to provide some recommendations to the mayor and get us an implementation plan to move forward. So to start, just want to give a little bit of the background on how we are looking. Sorry, trying to flip the slide. Okay. On kind of the vision for community access here. So a big part of this, right, is wanting to build upon, and the administration and the mayor's charge here is to reestablish public access in a significant way that builds upon the public channel, the public cable channel, but also moves us into the modern era, right, and moves us into a place where we're also uplifting digital access through digital literacy and training, education, and as many educational opportunities as we can provide through this organization in community media. So I think those are the three big components of what we want to try to accomplish with this, and it has been the charge from the beginning and has influenced those decisions, right? We want to have Channel 24, of course, in that public access channel. That's an important, significant piece of this, right? But then moving into a place where we have digital access, we have these educational components with, whatever the path forward is, it's got to include all of those to be something that we really think is going to last and be something the next generation can be proud of when we talk about public access in Atlanta. Some of the issues that we face throughout this time and the things that are something that will need to be discussed as we move forward with this. And I want to turn it over in a little bit to Dr. Samama to talk about the committee and his plans forward and his guidance and leadership there to get us to that place. But some of the things that brought us to him and brought us to that that moment are a couple significant issues that will be addressed by that committee, right? The first being governance and oversight. With that, we've seen as we've dug into this that there are some unclear distinctions between what was, I think, a cable access television oversight board that was created to sort of, oversee our production of this public access channel, and then what became the People TV board and what was the board for essentially this nonprofit entity that had positions here. There's sort of been an entanglement between those, and part of this process will need to be the detangling of that and ensuring that there is proper governance and oversight of whatever this entity is. And we'll have to work closely with council to determine what the best path forward is for what that oversight board might entail. The next thing, of course, is just technology and equipment needs, right? We're talking about really starting fresh, right? So there will be investments necessary to ensure there's the appropriate level of technology and other equipment in whatever facility and space is determined to be best suited for this. And then lastly, of course, and maybe most importantly, budget, all right? So money is key. So what is the contribution from the city side? What's necessary to actually ensure that what this community access looks like is funded, not just funded bare bones, but funded in a way that will be allow it to have the impact that it deserves. So that could be through, like I said, city allocations. They're a way to get sponsorships, allocations from outside entities, philanthropies, partner with universities. Options all need to be on the table to ensure that we can move forward in the appropriate way. So thinking through all these issues and through the steps that led us here, and I'll address at least one point that I know some of the questions that you had asked in advance, Mr. Chairman, about the RFP process and the decision there to end up canceling that RFP, which was obviously not the preferred option, right? All of us would have liked to have been at the finish line earlier than where we're at, of course. The reality was, when we looked through those applications and those requests for proposals, it's a limited number, and we felt like it was going to be a continuation of effectively what status quo had been, right? Not something that we felt like could take us to that next level of what we thought Atlanta deserved when it came to public access. So that was a tough choice to make as far as that cancellation goes, but I think is the right one to ensure that we do this the right way, right? We can continue on and do things in the same way where we weren't maybe as proud of what the public access had become in Atlanta, and or we can move forward and try to do things the right way to ensure that this is something that we're proud of for generations to come, and a new kind of reinvigoration of what public access was. That was really the determination behind that point, and then it was just, where do we go from there, right? How do we went through this process, it didn't end up the way we wanted, so where do we go from there? So I started talking with some of the leaders again. We talked as, the administration staff, communication staff. What do we think is the appropriate way forward based on the information we've gotten from everyone, the types of proposals that we got, what were the reasons, right? So probably inevitable that we turned to Dr. Samama here to try to help us out. He, of course, had been somebody that we had talked to in the past, of the pleasure of, getting to know him over the past, I think, almost 3 years now that we've known each other. So the pleasure there, and knew he would bring some guidance and leadership there. So throughout the spring, the beginning of this year, we talked to Dr. Samama about what do we think are the steps forward, what are his guidance, and so we made the decision to bring him on and help lead us through and get the right people in the room, right people at the table, to try to provide some recommendations to the mayor and get us on the right track to ensure that public access is the right way to go. And he will tell you, many of you know him. I think both of you council members, of course, have had opportunity to know Dr. Samama for some time, so it won't be necessarily new to you, but what better person to try to take us in the next step of public access TV than the person that really started it here in Atlanta. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Samama to talk about the committee that he's putting together, his involvement, and where we plan to go with this Blue Ribbon Committee on Community Access. So,
thank you.
Mr. Chair, good to see you again tonight, and Councilperson Boone, always good to see you, and all the current employees of the city, and all the members of the public. I have been asked for several years now to become involved in this question of community access, its future, its status. Adrienne Coleman, who I have known for many, many years, or had the honor of hiring her husband, confronted me one day and said, you need to be involved. This was something you helped create. Don't you care about its legacy? Don't you care about the future? So now I'm involved, and I am happy to be here to talk to you a little bit about the path forward. And I'll be very, very brief because I'm sure you will have questions. Just want to start a little bit about going back, because sometimes we can get a perspective on where we are now by kind of going back. And believe me it or not, at one point I had black hair and a little thicker beard, and that young man I'm talking to had a lot to do with early public access in the city. Michael Julian Bond's father, Julian Bond, was one of the early proponents and supporters of this program in Atlanta, and we're talking here about him being a keynote speaker at the Alliance for Community and Media's one of their first meetings that we had in Atlanta. And I always liked that photo, but it goes all the way back to 1980. I was the first and founding director of something that we called community television back then. It goes by a lot of different names: public access television, community access television, community media. It's all the same. Primarily, it's a medium that allows people to exercise the principles of the First Amendment, to speak truth to power, to be able to share ideas about their communities, issues that are important without having to go through gatekeepers. And that's always been a big, important part of community access, and we hope that it will continue to be that part of being able to speak truth to power without having to go through gatekeepers. So that's an early photo here. Back then it was interesting. We had 2 public access channels. We had 3 educational access channels, and we had 4 government access channels. All those channels have been distributed now to various entities. I think Clark Atlanta University has one of our educational access channels. The school board has one of the educational access channels. Part of my job was to set this whole thing up, designate the channels, and actually I was the one that designated Channel 26 for the city of Atlanta that's still open and operating right now. We also had a leased access channel where if you really wanted to do advertising, you could lease a channel and do advertising on that. All of the access channels, of course, you couldn't do advertising on, and you still can't do advertising on today. And then one local origination channel, which was programmed by the cable company itself, 5 neighborhood-based studios. And I'm not sure what all the recommendations are going to come out of the Blue Ribbon Committee, but I'm sure at least one of the recommendations would be to have some community-based producers facility or community-based studio, very similar to the 5 we had initially. Interesting, this is actually a photograph of the first public access studio in the black community in the United States of America, right over on Camden Road. The gentleman to the left was a community person. Ife worked for us. And you may not recognize that gentleman to the right, but it's the late Councilman Jim Maddox. It was in his district. He's very proud of it. And we want to bring back pride in community access television again in this city, something that every council member, every member of the public, every member of the executive staff can be proud of, the same way that we all were proud of it back in that day. Quite a bit of community engagement. In fact, that was the key to the success. And we want to do community engagement again. We had over 5,000 residents who were trained, over 75 original programming each week, not repeats, original programming produced each week, production and van equipment that went out into the community. These recommendations may come out of the Blue Ribbon Committee, I don't know, in editing suites, et cetera. Like I said, the big goal back then was to give a voice to the people of the city of Atlanta, and they had a lot to say. If you look at some of the prominent producers and guests who were on there, there will be names that you will recognize right now: Hank Aaron, Representative Sanford Bishop, James Bond, by the way, who is Michael Bond, Councilman Michael Julian Bond's uncle, was the council member that was responsible for researching and writing most of the original legislation, which provided Atlanta to have one of the largest and most successful programs in the nation. So I give former council member Bond a whole lot of credit, as well as I've already spoken to Julian Bond's role. And of some of the individuals who participated early on, I guess the most famous person was RuPaul. And RuPaul was interesting. There's a picture of him pretty much the way he looked. In fact, I think that is a photograph from him on the set of the American Music Show, which was one of the two shows that he starred in, American Music Show, Dance-A-Rama. And then, of course, we had shows that had a lot more political focus. A Voice of the Crusaders, a Hungry Club Forum, was produced by the Butler Street YMCA, League of Women Voters, NAACP, and many, many others. Pictured to the sort of right is a poet, Amiri Baraka, who, interesting enough, he was always one of my favorite poets, but when I became a council member, he'd come to Atlanta and bring his little jazz group with him, and inevitably somebody would get locked up in jail. And Councilmember Lewis and Councilman Amos will know how people will call you in jail, calling me to see if I could help get his drummer out of jail in time to perform. Those were just the heydays and the good old days that made this medium fun and special. And in Atlanta, because of the African-American population, we always had a diverse group of producers and community people watching these shows, participating in those shows. And this is the kind of spirit we want to engender and bring back again to Atlanta. So the concept was to put together a blue ribbon committee on community access media. I know that we have Bishop Lewis, who is on the committee, who is here now. I'm not sure if any other committee members are with us now, but Bishop Lewis, who is the president of the Vine City Civic Association, is with us, and we're glad that he agreed to serve on the committee. There are representatives of Clark Atlanta University, Georgia State University, Atlanta Technical College, Wendy Williams, who is the general manager over at WCLK. We all listen to the Jazz of the City, is helping us. Rick Clear, Antoine Haywood is an interesting individual because we hired him actually to work in the community technology centers. Councilmember Boone, you will remember we had one over in your district. Councilmember Amos, we had one at Marsh Brown College and also one at the Olive Street YMCA. But Antoine was hired to work for us then. He went on to get his PhD, told me he just finished his dissertation, so he'll be awarded his PhD. But he did it on community access television. That's his expertise. So we're glad that he agreed to serve on the committee. Bishop Lewis is going to head up our community engagement committee to make sure that everything we do has a robust community engagement. And I want to kind of go over with you the meeting schedule, and our meetings will be productive, will be agenda focused. We're not going to waste time. I told these citizens, give me 6 months, and then you can go do whatever you need to do. But by the end of the year, we want a proposal, recommendations into the mayor and the city council. So here's our schedule. Our next meeting will be August 14th for the full committee, September 11th, November 9th. You can see the dates up here. And then the subcommittees that we created to look at budgeting more in detail, operating structure in detail, community outreach and engagement in detail. Those committees will meet on off weeks. So you see the schedule for that, with the goal of being able to have our proposals and recommendations into the city by December 11th. Now, these committees will meet on those days, but I'll be working in between, every day, working as hard on this as I can to make sure that when we have our committee meetings, we're productive, and a lot of the work will be done between committee meetings. And right now, I am working on this almost daily. The deliverables, and I think the community will be happy to hear this, is the channel has been down for approximately a year. Is that correct? Yeah. And I don't, nobody's satisfied with that. The city council's not satisfied with it, the mayor's not satisfied with it. So, and one of the first things that Bishop Lewis and the committee said is Jabari, can we figure out a way of getting the channel up and operating a little bit quicker before we even get our full recommendations in? So I've been working on that. That's what I've been working on for the last week. And I think that we have a solution. Every time I think we got one, I run into a little problem, but we're going to work around those problems. So my goal is to see if we can have the channel operating on an interim basis. Now, it won't be all the facilities open, but it will be if you have programming and you want that programming to be transmitted on the channel. We're going to figure out a way of getting that done. It may cost us a little money to get a server for that, but I'm going to be begging and urging the city, and which you all support, to go ahead and make a slight investment so we can get that up and running. And my objective is to have that done as quickly as possible, but certainly by next month, be able to have producers be able to get their programming on the channel. The website I thought was important too, because you got these citizens who are volunteering their time on the Blue Ribbon committees, but you need to have a way where the community can go at any time they have a good idea or a suggestion and be able to post their ideas and their suggestions and provide feedback. So right now we have a website that's up and running and operating, and we want citizens to take advantage of that to provide ideas and suggestions. Every idea will be read, every idea will be considered, every idea will ultimately go to the Blue Ribbon Committee to consider, but there's no need to wait right now. You can go to the mayor's office communication website, and there will be a tab or a button for community media. Just punch that, and you'll be able to get information on the work and the progress, and you'll be able also to make suggestions right there on that website. So as I mentioned earlier, the recommendations to the mayor on December. My hope, Mr. Chair, and you can tell me what works for you all, is to be able to come back before your committee and give you updates along the way, maybe every other month or however often you want them. We want to be sensitive of your work schedule, but maybe every other month. So maybe we'll come back, the beginning of October, and then maybe again around the middle of November before we make final recommendations, because I want you all to see and have input of the recommendations before we finalize them, and then get the recommendations into the mayor's office by the time of December. And I got a big wedding anniversary coming up in December. I'm leaving the country, so I want to be able to have that work done before I leave the country. And then, Mr. Chair and members of council, I'm sure that in order to enact a lot of the recommendations and the suggestions that will come out of this effort will take enabling legislation. So we want to be able to talk with you about that legislation that might be required and have it done in time for you to be able to bring it before your body in January. And my hope and my goal is to be able to have that legislation before you in January, hopefully approved by the end of January, and then we'll be in a position then to have this new relaunching, reinvigoration, reinvention of community access. And the reason why I started in the beginning to show you the way it started out in Atlanta, I want it to I wanted to be able to reach that height again. And with you all's support and the community's support, I believe that we will be able to get there. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of council.
Thank you. We've been joined by Councilmember Byron Amos to my left. We will start with, thank you, Mr. Wagner. Thank you, Councilmember Samama. We will go into discussion and question and answers with council members. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? We're going to start with Councilmember Amos.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman, for finally getting us to this day. I know the people have been asking for it. Although I apologize for being late, thank you, Channel 26, for actually putting it on Facebook because I was following you. Hopefully, I was looking for the question which may matters to some, but may not matter to the grand scheme of things, as we have been off the air for a year, if not more. I did not hear an answer to why. I know that you talked about putting out a RFP in which we had to pull back. That's unfortunate because as I have said in transportation and finance, we really need to take a look at our procurement department because we putting out RFPs and having to pull it back is something that is just unacceptable in the city of Atlanta. So I am glad you brought a District 3 representative in, former council member of District 3, to help us figure this all out because for some reason we couldn't get out our own way. So I understand we're looking at enabling legislation by January if all the dates hold true. What is our expected return to air date?
So part of what Dr. Shmama said, I think what we're hoping to have is that by the time we get to September, we're looking at some options to have basically a digital upload of content that then can have some sort of automated way to ensure that content is getting on to the channel then, right? So at least in some capacity, again, not to the full extent of what we want this to become, of course, but to some extent in September to be able to have some way for the public to put content back on the channel.
And last question, and I'm reading the list of the Blue Ribbon Committee, Community Access Media. I know a few people. I don't know a few people. Well, what I do know, and I have not talked to Ms. Coleman, her name is not on this list. And when we're talking about engaging the community, I haven't seen anybody on this list, including you, Mr. Wagner, come to us on a weekly basis talking about returning the channel back to air. I haven't talked to her, don't know if she got time, don't know if she want to, but we're talking about engaging the community and we neglect to put the people that has been engaging us. I think that sends a wrong message. So I don't know what we have to do to figure that out.
So we, just to make sure we do it right, and I make sure we do this right. Public comment is going to come after this. Right now, Mr. Wagner, please direct all of your answers to the council.
So I will say, as far as communication, of course, I mean, can admit and take on that, you know, communication can always be better on what has our process been, where have we been at, what are the steps to move forward, right? So, you know, apologies from us to that, to yourselves and to the community on, you know, we want to be as forthcoming, we want to have answers, and, you know, there can be times when we want to wait for those answers to be there, and sometimes the answer is we're working on it and we're moving forward, and to hear from us is better than to not hear from us. So, you know, we're going to ensure that of course happens as we move forward at every step of the way. We said we want to come back in front of the committee, we want to be able to speak to the community, we want to come into the community, to the committee, but also get to the community and maybe have another session for some folks to be able to be heard again. As far as Ms. Coleman, I'm not going to speak directly to her decisions on joining or not joining the committee. Understand, yeah, Dr. Samama, yeah.
While I'm up, I forgot, there's also a youth advisory council with 5 members. I forgot to present them today, but they will be involved as well. Ms. Coleman, as I mentioned, I've known her for a very, very long time, and I invited her to be on the committee. And And I think that the conclusion is that instead of being on the committee herself, that she would be a special advisor to me, and that continues to happen. We're continue to talk. If she wants to be on the committee, she's welcome to be on the committee. I wanted her on the committee. She was the first person I thought of and invited. But you know, we have our relationship that we've had for a number of years, of which she calls and gives me her advice, and I seek advice from her. But if she wants to be on the committee, we'll be more than glad to put her on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield.
Councilmember Boone.
Yes, I simply would like to say Atlanta has a rich history. My father, the late Reverend Joseph E. Boone, Hosea Williams, they believed in public access. We cannot continue to operate in the dark in public access. It does not send a good message. And I am so very thankful that Dr. Jabari Samama, along with others, and Bishop Lewis have stepped up, because you truly understand how important this is in getting the message out. Let's do a real deep dive in the community on this issue. Let's have real town hall meetings. Let's go out and not just say we have a website where you can send your ideas. Let's engage in the community, because this is very, very important. Again, thank you, Dr. Samama and others, for taking this very important project on. I feel great today. Thank you.
And I haven't gotten to great yet. So I'm gonna go through we're gonna have us a little fun. So I'm gonna go through slide by slide if we can. I got them out of order a little bit, but I'll start with issues faced. On the governance and oversight. Dr. Samama answered so many questions. As I go through my list, Dr. Samama answered a lot of the questions. One question of budget-wise, since we talked about having 5 channels and we went from 5 channels down to 1, what do we think this new budget? Do we have a thought process of what the budget would be?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can speak as well. I would say that's definitely going to be part of this process, to understand what do we think the budget is going to take to run it in a way that makes sense for today, right? The 5 channels, of course, don't encompass everything that the city of Atlanta was responsible for. Some of those channels still exist, of course. But part of the process, one of the subcommittees will focus on budget. I believe Dr. Samama has me and some others on that committee to try to understand, you know, what is it going to take to do this the right way, right? So slightly premature to say what we think is the actual budget. We can talk about what's been budgeted in the past, but we want to look at what is necessary, right? And then what are the sources for those, right? There's opportunities there beyond, there's, of course, city investment in it, right? But we've got a lot of partners in the community that are interested in this as well. So we'd love to try to work with, you know, any of our, the philanthropic community, from the business community, folks that would be interested in supporting this as well. And we want to be open to whatever options are out there from funding sources, as well as what does that budget really look like.
Okay, so I would, towards the end of this meeting, I'll talk about next steps, next dates. But at the last meeting before your December 11th meeting, when we meet again, I would like to at least know a bucket of funding streams. You can give me 3 or 4 buckets. I'd at least like to know how we fund this. We talked about Martin, the technology. No, on issues faced, are we closed out fully with the People TV Board and CATV oversight?
I mean, I guess it depends on exactly what you mean with closed out. There's not a contractual relationship between the city and People TV anymore. Of course, on the books is one of the official boards of the city is the People TV Board, which is one of the things we need to untangle as far as that governance and oversight is considered.
So, Mr. Samama, would you please add that to your list of things that you're doing so that you can have recommendations for the council as to how to move forward with that committee?
Quickly, Mr. Chair, absolutely we'll do that. And I feel good about it because we invited Phil Ransom, who's the former general manager of So So Def Records, who happened to be the last chairman of the Cable Television Advisory Board that the city set up, that they dissolved at the time they set up the People TV Board. I don't know what the committee will recommend, but my recommendation is going to be we need that oversight board again, reconstructed, and I'm going to certainly bring that idea to the committee. But once we look at governance oversight, clearly we're going to be back with you all to make sure we get your input in terms of whether or not you feel that that is sufficient, because even the Cable Television Board, Advisory Board of late, you had members appointed by City Council, and whether we use that same kind of structure again, but of course we know we got to move forward and make those appointments so we don't have vacancies.
Yeah. The next sheet is we talked about the access to Cable Atlanta Center for Community Television. We went from 5 studios to 1 studio, and that studio was no longer accessible. Like, I went there one time and I never went again because of traffic. And we have, I want to put a recommendation there for you. We have recreation centers perfectly spaced throughout the city of Atlanta. This investment in the recreation centers would allow our young folks. We got some young folks in the city of Atlanta who want to be Mr. Martin, who's on Fox 5 right now, that they can start right now in their recreation centers. So look at our recreation centers, and if you need one to start at.
Well received on that.
I know these 3 council members who are here now, we would all like for you to, we would probably recommend all of our recreation centers to be the start off points if you need some to be in the community. So recreation centers for that. Next page, community engagement. We talked about the community engagement. Please, at the next time we meet, let's talk about how much this will cost. Talk about 5,000 because we used to have 5,000 residents trained, 75 original programs weekly, production van and equipment, editing suites. I need all that back. And so we need to know how much it used to cost, and can we have that going again? Because I believe you, I believe what we used to have, and we don't want to go backwards. Blue Ribbon Committee. The dates that I want to make sure we're meeting again, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different dates. After the September 11th date, Mr. David Johnson will work with Mr. Samama to figure out a date that we will be meeting, and after the November 13th date. So before the October 9th and before the December 11th. It's all on here. I'm marking on here. So they have 5 meetings. So before the 3rd meeting, before the last meeting. So they do 2 meetings and they'll come back to us. So that's when we want to hear from you. So 2 times over the next period, because we know that every year we've had a new chair of the Utilities Committee, and it's kind of hard to get some consistency. One of my goals this year was to get this done, because we don't know what they're going to do next year. It's hard the way that we do city council, the way we do is right. We have to get some consistency, and we have to make sure that whoever's making these choices, let us know how he's going to be moving forward. So those 3 dates, even if I'm not chair next year, I will set the next chair up perfectly, because to me, by the December 11th date, we'll know what the January meeting will look like. We'll know what the legislation will look like. This will be handled. Because we haven't met since I've been here. This meeting hasn't happened. Yeah. I'll keep going through. I apologize. I know. Blue Ribbon Committee. I keep seeing the name Blue Ribbon in the city of Atlanta. Where did the term Blue Ribbon come from?
That's a good question. In this particular instance, or just the term blue ribbon?
Just they naming all of them blue something. So where does this come from? The people want to, it looks like everybody want to know. This could be the Atlanta. Okay, I'm going to stay out of it. But so that's a real question. I was looking at that committee. I don't see Mr. Reverend Lewis's name. And so I know we said he's going to be there. I'd like to see it in writing.
Yeah, I did notice that. I'm not sure the discrepancy between the list and.
We talked about him the most.
Yeah.
And so he's a person we trust.
We'll make sure we have a list. And I think Dr. Samama said too, we've worked to engage with some other folks to include both from kind of the digital space, as well as some kind of a youth council as well, to ensure we're touching all parts of the community that makes sense here. So we'll provide lists, make sure we got the correct names. Some oversight there. I'm not sure exactly what happened in that list, but we'll get the correct list to you so that
Okay.
you can have it outside the PowerPoint.
I ran through my questions from there. So, because Councilmember Amos asked a couple of the questions I wanted to ask. Atlanta is the new Hollywood. We have to be able to get this right. In my district alone, we have Screen on the Gems, Cinemax, we have Tyler Perry Studios, we also have West End production, post-production. So we have so many movie theaters, so we need to be able to work with someone to get this right. I'm looking at the New York TV shows, the Sunny New York. Other cities are doing it so much better, and to see where we came from, So we have to get this right, have to get this right. Those are the questions I have for myself. Does my committee members have anything else?
No,
Councilwoman.
like I said, I think this is a great start. And I really, really do appreciate the work that you all have done and are going to do. My biggest concern is a deep dive in the community. There are folks that really, really care and know the value of public access. We want and need to hear from them. We have to do a better job of publicizing these work sessions and having small community town hall meetings in the community. As you know, City Hall is a great place, but parking is a challenge. So let's get out and go to the rec centers, to the Ys, and let's put some boxes out where folks can write notes and tell us what they like to see and how they would like to operate this. And of course, it's reimagining everything, but let's not forget the old ways that did work. Let's not forget the old ways that did work for the city of Atlanta. Thank you.
So that we'll move on to the next section in our agenda, and we'll go into the public comment. Thank you again, Mr. Wagner. Thank you again, Mr. Samama. I would appreciate if you can join us for the public comment so that you can hear from the public, but you don't have to stay for this section. We only had 2 people sign up, but I would like to open it up for a couple other people who were here. If you did not get to sign up and you were here, I know you came here a little late, but we'll make sure you can sign up. The first person will be Mr. Knudsen. Did I say that?
Johnny Knudsen. There are a number of things, with all due respect to Dr. Samama and the newly created Blue Ribbon Committee. Mr. Wagner kept referencing a we decided this and we decided that, and I'm not certain who the we is, but it created a number of questions. As I said, we have been off the air for over a year, going 14 months to be exact, as my colleague is saying. Dr. Samama talked about without gatekeepers. It appears that we already have the gatekeepers. We're off the air for over a year now. At the very least, we could have had some type of upload situation if there was some issue. They talked about there being unclear, what was the word, distinctions between the CAT oversight. CAT, that was a number of years ago. People TV Board is a board of the city of Atlanta. And you all, along with the mayor, are supposed to appoint people to that board that are supposed to keep you all informed of the needs, technical assistance, what have you, that is necessary in terms of governance for the channel. And one of the things, we got this 3-minute ticker right here. This is a work session. You can't do anything hardly in 3 minutes. That's another reason why public access is important, because when you all give us 3 minutes, we have a half an hour or whole hour, whatever our program that we decide is. This is a First Amendment stoop, is what public access is. You all have the government channel, which is created under the same precepts as the public access channel. I haven't seen the Channel 26 being put up for bid in RFP. In terms of funding, all of the funding I don't understand why it shouldn't come from the franchise fees, which is the way that Comcast basically pays for, I'm not sure. I don't know what their cost of doing business in the city of Atlanta is. They charge a fee to the subscribers, which is really a secondary tax that comprises those franchise fees, which I believe over the term of the agreement totals in excess of 30 million or somewhere in that area. So I don't think there's a money problem. I think a lot of the things may be perception or what have you, but again, there's public in the name for a reason, because the government channel is for the government to oversee, and the public channel is for the public to oversee.
Thank you.
And again, like I said, I haven't gotten to any of the other questions that I had. It's a work session, so I don't understand why 3 minutes, but I'll submit.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Ms. Adrienne Coleman Tyler.
Good afternoon. First of all, thank you, Chairman. Thank you to the committee for the work session. My name is Adrienne Coleman Tyler. The Public Access Channel, Comcast Channel 24, has been in black 14 months. The Office of Communications, the Mayor's Office of Communications, and the Mayor's staff unilaterally, without City Council approval or even notice of City Council, put the Public Access Channel in black without any notice to the community, to City Council, to the producers that were active at People TV. This is the first mayor since Maynard Jackson who took the unprecedented task to shut the public access down, period. None of you will speak. The government speaks, but none of you, and I want to use another word because that's what it rang out in Oakland City, none of you will be able to speak. And they did it the same day that hundreds came down here to speak out on Cop City. I don't think that that's a coincidence. Now, Mr. Chair, I've sent you emails over the past week because I think something that we have to talk about publicly is that we need the Finance Department to talk about how much the City of Atlanta is collecting in franchise fees. We really need to start with the franchise agreement. Since 2019, the City of Atlanta receives, cable subscribers pay 5% of their cable bill as a franchise fee. So if my cable bill is $100, I pay Comcast $100, I send $5 to the City of Atlanta for franchise fees. I'm going to use the words of John Lewis, and I have a video of him saying this. The franchise agreement was a community benefits agreement. Everybody had access to the channel, but also, Mr. Amos, if I give you $1, I'm going to make you an offer. I will give you $1. All I ask is that you take 15 to 20 cents of that dollar and invest it in a community resource. I think I can get anybody, from a street hustler to a hedge fund manager, to say, wait, I can keep the other 85. You want me to invest 15 cents into the public good? Yes, that's what the franchise agreement was. That was the promise. So when we talk about where we going to get this money, let's go get, no. $350,000 was the budget in 1980. In 2023, People TV's budget was $150,000. Look at the population and the demographics of Atlanta in 1980 compared to 2023. Understand, put that $350,000 into an inflation calculation. In 1995, then Mayor Young and Bill Campbell told a cable operator to invest $1 million. That's how the studio came to be on 14th Street. Take $1 million and invest it in the studios. And the budget of People TV at that time was $500,000 annually, adjusted quarterly for inflation. Mr. Chair, at one point, the budget of People TV was $650,000. That's how you got educated, competent staff and all of that. My time is up.
Thank you, Ms. Tyler.
So, but if I may, can somebody donate 3 minutes to me? Sylvia, sign up. Can somebody donate 3 minutes to me? Because I got 3 points.
Can I
that
tell you,
I've
so
made.
today I'm the chair, right?
Yeah.
And so I told y'all we're gonna have a little fun. And so he looking at me crazy, but we don't have a parliamentarian here, so I'm allowed today.
Thank you, China. Thank you.
And what's your name, if you don't mind me? Miss China? Miss China, so you're gonna donate your 3 years, your 3 minutes. But I'm gonna go even off. You can still have your 3 minutes. Give it 3 more minutes.
Thank you so much. So, today, the community has been
You come on
organized.
back too after this.
The community has been organizing for a number of years. And so we have suggestions. I've shared a lot of it with Dr. Samama. What I'd like to hear today is, first of all, I know it can happen. We want the public access channel restored, remote upload access, early September. We want the DeKalb model. Mr. Chair, I ask you to invite Aviva Hoffman, who runs the DeKalb County's government channel. Everything is online. You apply, you submit your programming, everything. This is an interim step back. How can we get this? We have a citywide election in November. We need access so that we can hear from these new people who will be sitting on our council. We need access to that channel. Number two, with all due respect, from what I heard from Dr. Samama and for the chief of staff, December, they're going to give a report to the mayor. Then things are going to happen. No, we need to build this out incrementally. So what I'm suggesting, by September, 30 days, we at least have remote upload to Comcast Channel 24. Number two, we want to open a community maker space. I suggest this is just a working plan. West End Performing Arts Center, I'm okay with Roselle Fan, but we need to open a mini studio inside south of I-20 so that we can create a space, a physical space before the end of the year. We need to start these relocation plans right now. We bring in Comcast, we move the head pin, but that would mean a small mini studio where people can go and check out equipment, we can have classes, and we can do all of that. And Mr. Chair, I'm saying at that timeline, Mr. Chair, the city designed, built from the ground up a homeless center in downtown Atlanta in less than 90 days. Please don't tell me we can't open up a mini maker space in a public recreation center. It can be done. So what I'm asking for today, two things. Number one, let's get a time certain. The first step, first phase, September, remote upload access. Step two, 90 days, 120 days, no later December, we are opening a mini maker space, a small micro studio where the community can come in, there'll be staff there, laptops, equipment, and what have you. Let's make that happen. We can do both, and this is not a single track. We have to have multiple steps. This is short term. What are we gonna do in the next 6 months? At the same time, the Blue Ribbon Panel is figuring out the long-term strategy. I thank you.
Thank you. I will say that it might be difficult to get that time certain for you, but I will recommend two recreation centers that already are prepared for that. Dunbar Recreation Center is prepared for you to come and try it out. They already have a studios there. Roselle Fan is getting one built, so we are already prepared for you to come try it out. Also, I want to say I've been joined by Council Member the Honorable Michael Julian Bond. But Dunbar Recreation Center is already ready for you, a community center you can go into today probably and get it going. High schools and our local high schools have them as well. I know Thurl High School has a studio already built inside of it, and so does South Atlanta High School. Both have a studio built inside of it. So we already have community spaces there. We'll go to our next speaker, Mr. Joe. And I apologize, I don't want to say your last name.
Oh, that's okay. It's Sloopner.
Sloopner.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Joe Sloopner. By day, I'm a technology executive. I do a lot of digital transformation in my company, artificial intelligence, different types of, technology projects. By night, I'm MPUO chair for Edgewood, Kirkwood, and Eastlake. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's my first year. And one of the things that I'm kind of shepherding in my MPU is, an embracement of technology and community engagement. So I heard you, Councilman Boone. I heard you, Councilman Amos. You want community engagement. I'm here to say, I saw the email that said, hey, come to this meeting and learn about this. And I started to jump for joy. I love this type of stuff. If you want to use me, if you want to put me on the blue ribbon panel, please do. I will give you all of my time, my expertise, to help make this endeavor a real smashing success. And that's basically my commentary, is to offer my services. And I just think it's great that we're talking about this. I think it's great that we're talking about formulating action plans for this. I mean, that's the first stage. I know there's a very long road to get to be where we want to be, where we used to be as the model, but we'll get there. We will get there. But let's just all dig in and start to execute and do it. And like I said, I am willing to offer my advice, expertise, be on the panel, whatever panel. I'll produce content. I'll run the darn video camera, whatever you want me to do. That's all I have, but thank you.
Thank you. And anytime they mention AI, artificial intelligence, I know we can. Mr. Wagner is smiling too, because we know that's the route. That's the route to get this thing done the right way. They have people doing concerts who are not here anymore. The next speaker, Miss China, she actually left. So Mr. John, Mr. Knudsen, since we came back to you, Mr. Bond actually want to make a statement.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All means.
So we'll bring you up so you can go.
Well, again, I concur. That's in the spirit of People TV. The way that he just stood up and said, I will step forward and volunteer. It is a public thing. This is, like I said, we have an election, an important election coming up in just a few months. There's no way that we should have been down this entire year with all of the importance of the day. I mentioned earlier, again, that the city council has a role beyond just waiting for the executive side to do things. Actually, the ball has always been in y'all's court. We talk about the ambiguity of the People TV board. There really is none. If you all appoint people to be on that board and serve on that board, if the mayor's office appoints their people to be on that board, there will be a number of 7 people on that board. If they always attend, there will always be a quorum. There will always be a small d democratic way to move the ball forward. There was no reason that we should have been off the air, and I'm repeating myself. I want to make certain these meetings that we're talking about, the Blue Ribbon Committee, I want to ask, are they going to be public? Will there, besides a website, is there a way for the public? We don't necessarily have to chime in at the meeting, but I think it's important that we are there in the meeting. And community engagement, we've been going through this too long to start now sputtering along, and I love the enthusiasm, but this is a 40-year-old institution. Atlanta is one of the places that other cities took as a model for their community media programs. And now for us to be at this stage is really, with the Peach being on everything on TV and movies, it's a travesty that the public side of things have been in the dark with all of these creators out here looking for spaces and opportunities where they can't come. They come to City Hall, they're only gonna get 3 minutes, as I said earlier. But they can decide on their own free speech stoop what their program point of view is, who their audience and target audience is, who they're speaking to, and there are no gatekeepers. And there shouldn't be gatekeepers. We can't come on the city channel and put a program up. Why is the mayor decided that they're gonna take the free speech stoop away from the people, and that's effectively what has been done. And it should not take long. We can get upload access almost immediately. That costs nothing. The city channel could be in charge of that for a temporary basis just to be able to get creators up and on the channel. There's a history there, a legacy there, and we should not negate that, as Councilwoman Boone said. We can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I will ask one question that you asked, and Mr. Samama or Mr. Wagner either can answer. Will the Blue Ribbon Commission meetings be public for all to attend or watch on Channel 26? And, or if so, because I like how fast you answered that, can we also add them to the Facebook and YouTube lives?
100% yes to all of those questions. And the suggestion would definitely be taken. Absolutely.
Dr. Samama, I apologize. Lincoln Knight, Lincoln University, Dr. Samama. The last speaker, Ms. China, and Mr. John Lewis is here. Bishop John Lewis, I see your name right here. And I'll call you on up if you want to come up today. You still want to speak? Come on up, Bishop John Lewis. And this is our last speaker for today.
Thank you so very much for this opportunity to speak on behalf of Public Access TV. And I want to begin by saying thank you for facilitating this public meeting. And I think it has been brought out very clearly the importance of public TV. I'm sure we all agree that we've been dark for far too long, and I say we because the Vine City Civic Association had its regular weekly show on People TV. As it has already been said, you get 2 or 3 minutes at City Hall, and we were able to have a whole hour, 30 minutes for our voice to be adequately heard, and the people voicing the opinions of what's going on in our community. And I'm really excited about working and moving forward, and want to say thank you very much for including me in this committee. As a matter of fact, I took the training in the very beginning of People TV. And it is very important to me that we not backpedal or not go backward, but to move forward. And I don't feel like I want to be one of those persons to blame anyone, but I want to leave this with all of us today who are in this room. In an old Ghanaian proverb which says, if it is to be, it is up to we. It is up to each and every one of us to be involved in the moving ahead of People TV in the future for the benefit of our community. Unless we forget our senior citizens who have so depended upon People TV. Many of them are not on all of the social media channels and so forth, but our biggest audience on our show was from the high rises and the senior citizen communities. And there are those of you who can also remember that when my father, John H. Lewis Sr., and Jose and Allie Pat, that was a hoot. Those shows with Martha Grooms and others. And I look forward once again to People TV being what it once was, and not only that, but take it to the next dimension. Thank you so very much.
And before we go to our next step, Councilmember, thank you, Mr. Bishop Lewis. Councilmember Michael Julian Bond has a statement.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members of the public and the committee thank the committee for holding the hearing, of course. And I just want to say I'm very, very excited to see this type of movement on People TV once again. The channel has been dark for too long, and it has been bad that in a city and state that is booming with television, movie production, video production, that our own channel is laid dormant for this time. But I want to compliment you gentlemen from the administration that are going to take on the Blue Ribbon Committee efforts and to come back, I hope, as quickly as possible so that we could get the station going again. I recognize this picture of this guy you're photographed with, Dr. Samama. Very excited to see that. But I remember his brother, Councilman James Bond, who did legislation that created People TV back in the day. And he had I see it mentioned here in the notes, the American Music Show, where that launched the career of RuPaul, who was watching People TV as a student at Booker T. Washington High School and literally walked 2 blocks to come over to say, are they really producing a show in this basement over here on Westview Drive? And they called him in, and the rest is history. And so I remember when the People TV studio was in the old Pizza Hut next to the Y on Campbellton Road. That's where I took my first producer's class to learn how to work the cameras and the boards at People TV. And so, and I've used that experience. I've had a couple of shows on People TV myself, and Lord knows I've been on dozens of shows. And it's not just senior citizens that watch People TV. I've seen coverage and stories that have appeared on People TV that have affected the main news channels in Atlanta, that have changed the quality of coverage in Atlanta. I'll give you one specific example, and then I'll yield. I remember back in, I think it was 2004, where Tim McDonald and former Councilman Derek Bozeman were camped out on the front of City Hall, and it was a homeless issue, and he came and got arrested in the chamber. The mainstream media portrayed it as if they were wrong and rabble-rousing, right? And they gave probably about 30 seconds of coverage to that arrest. A show on People TV showed the entire circumstance, right? And then the media, mainstream media, turned their spin around based on what the people had put out on the airwaves. And so there's a lot that People TV has done for Atlanta, and I'm very, very excited and want to be a part in supporting to see it return. It is a valuable asset for our city, and I'm glad that the Dickens administration is making this correction to get it back going and get it established again so that all of our citizens can have access to this very, very important institution in our town. So I'm very, very pleased to be here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank you, and I'm glad they're making this correction as well. I'm glad that the administration is making this correction, and it's intentional. The institutional knowledge that I heard in Mr. Samama and Dr. Samama today leads me to know that we're going in the right direction. And anytime you got a Lincoln University person on the board, I think you're moving right anyway. Having this People TV up by the end of the year is a goal of mine, or having a plan moving in the direction was a goal of this committee. And so I appreciate my committee members for also being here on this evening with us to get this done. Our next portion of the agenda is about next steps. They've been laid out by Dr. Samama, but I added in two other things to it. So after September 11th and between October 9th, we will look forward to a date coming from Mr. Johnson. If you and Mr. Samama could just choose a date that works for us, and we can put it out either at the next utilities meeting, or I want to put it out at the September utilities meeting. September utilities meeting. I want to be able to talk about our October meeting. At the next date we will be meeting would be before the December 11th and after the November 13th meeting. So I want to make sure you select a date between those days.
Will do, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do I have anything from committee members?
That's great.
If all hearts are full, this meeting is adjourned. Let's go.
Great meeting, Mr. Chair.